The morning sun hadn't yet reached Manhattan's glass towers when Olivia Sterling stepped into the executive boardroom on the 23rd floor of Asterisk Sterling Tower. The city outside still wore its pale dawn colors, steel and shadow, but inside the room, power already hummed like live electricity. Her red dress caught the faint early light, bold against the muted tones of mahogany walls and polished marble. It wasn't chosen for beauty. It was chosen for dominance. At 34, Olivia had learned that in boardrooms full of men twice her age, perception was leverage. Red didn't ask for authority. It declared it. "Your morning brew, Miss Sterling," her assistant said softly, approaching with a porcelain cup balanced on a saucer. Olivia reached for the handle. "Don't drink that coffee." The shout detonated through the room. Every head snapped toward the doorway. A janitor stood frozen beside an abandoned cleaning cart, his gloved hand still gripping the mop handle. His chest rose sharply as if he'd run the length of the building. Dark eyes burned with urgency. Nathan Carter. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Olivia's fingers hovered a fraction of an inch from the cup. One sentence, one choice, could alter everything. Asterisk Sterling Tower rose 53 floors into Manhattan skyline, a monument to ambition, innovation, and ruthless success. At its helm sat Olivia Sterling, sole heir to her father's empire. 5 years earlier, she had inherited a conservative investment firm and transformed it into a multi-billion-dollar technology powerhouse. She was praised in headlines and feared in negotiations, but success had hardened her. The warmth that once danced in her blue eyes had crystallized into calculation. Vulnerability had no place in her world. The red dress was armor. Weakness invited blood in corporate waters. Nathan Carter lived in that same building, but in an entirely different universe. At 36, his broad shoulders still carried the posture of a soldier. His uniform, however, had changed from combat fatigues to navy blue janitorial coveralls. Every morning at 4:30 a.m., he kissed his sleeping daughter Lily on the forehead, careful not to wake her, then left her with her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. From their small rental in Queens, he made the hour-long commute to Manhattan. Executives never noticed him. He emptied their trash, polished their desks, erased fingerprints from glass walls that framed million-dollar decisions. To them, he was invisible, a ghost who maintained a pristine world while they slept. But Nathan noticed everything. Military training had sharpened his senses into survival tools. He noticed how Damian Cross, the chief operations officer, stayed late on Thursdays when the building was nearly empty. He noticed the tension that rippled through meetings whenever Olivia challenged the board. And most importantly, he noticed a faint chemical sweetness rising from the coffee that morning, a smell that dragged him backward through time. To Afghanistan, to hazardous material briefings, to danger, ethylene glycol. Damian Cross cut an imposing figure at 40. Tall, lean, prematurely gray hair slicked back from a sharp widow's peak. He wore silver-gray suits that mirrored his eyes, cold, precise, predatory. Recruited 3 years earlier from a rival firm, he had been promised partnership, succession, power. But patience was not Damian's strength. Behind closed doors, he whispered doubts into board members' ears. He framed Olivia as emotional, impulsive, reckless. He painted himself as the rational alternative, the man who could steady the ship. Little Lily Carter, 7 years old, understood far more than adults realized. She knew her father came home exhausted. She knew janitor wasn't the job he was meant for. She'd seen the engineering textbooks hidden in the closet, the metals sealed in boxes they never opened. She also knew her father would do anything to protect her. Every night she waited by the window for his familiar silhouette, homework finished, dinner set. She played the role of caretaker with a maturity that broke and healed Nathan in equal measure. Back in the boardroom, laughter rippled as executives took in the scene. "Someone call security," muttered Harrison Blake, the CFO. The help seemed confused about their place. But Olivia raised her hand. Silence fell. Something in Nathan's expression, certainty braided with fear, stopped her cold. She had built her empire on instinct, on reading what others missed. Every instinct now screamed that this interruption mattered. "You have 30 seconds, Olivia said coolly. "Explain yourself." She paused, realized she didn't even know his name. Carter, he said. Nathan Carter. He stepped forward despite the security guard closing in. That coffee contains ethylene glycol, he said evenly. It's subtle, mixed with vanilla creamer to mask the scent. But it's there. Someone is trying to poison you. Gasps erupted. Damian Cross rose instantly, outrage perfectly rehearsed. This is absurd. The man is delusional. Olivia, we cannot delay a $300 million acquisition because a janitor imagines himself a detective. Olivia didn't move. She studied Nathan's face. The conviction, the fear, not for himself, but for her. A memory surfaced. She had seen him help an elderly board member who'd fallen, had seen him walk a young intern to her car late at night. Test it, Olivia said quietly. Damian flushed. This is ridiculous. The board, Olivia cut in, will appreciate a CEO who values her survival. She ordered the police. When Detective Sarachin arrived, the test strips turned blue, then purple, positive. Silence crushed the room. A lethal dose. As shock settled, Nathan's gaze locked briefly with Damian's. And in that moment he saw it. Not surprise. Calculation. And memory whispered something terrible. The accident worked before. Nathan didn't yet know how deep the truth ran. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was only the beginning. The boardroom felt colder after the test results came back. Detective Sarah Chen's expression was professional, but her eyes betrayed the gravity of the moment as she sealed the contaminated cup into an evidence bag. Ethylene glycol, she confirmed. Enough to cause kidney failure within hours. Olivia's assistant collapsed into a chair, trembling. Harrison Blake loosened his tie, his face drained of color. Damian Cross recovered quickly. Too quickly. This is clearly a targeted attack, he said smoothly. We must review everyone with access to this floor. I'll personally oversee. No, Olivia said, stepping away from him. Her voice was calm, lethal. The police will handle it. For the first time, she truly looked at Nathan Carter. You saved my life, she said quietly. How did you know? Military training. Nathan replied. 8 years. Army Corps of Engineers. Hazardous materials. Ethylene glycol smells sweet if you know what you're looking for. You risked everything on a smell. Some things matter more than a job. The words carried weight far beyond the room. The past that never stayed buried. 5 years earlier, Nathan's wife Emma had died in a car accident. Brake failure, the report said. Unavoidable. But Emma had called him minutes before. Terrified, she'd worked for a pharmaceutical company. She'd found falsified clinical trial data, dangerous side effects buried to protect profits. She was going to expose it. Then a delivery truck hit her car. The company settled. Lawyers buried Nathan. A non-disclosure agreement sealed his silence. The only thing he fought for was a trust fund for Lily's education. Justice had been stolen. When Nathan overheard Damian Cross whisper, "The accident worked before," something inside him snapped awake. He found Emma's hidden notes that night. And Damian's name. The Alliance. The next morning, Nathan went straight to Olivia's office. I don't want a reward, he told her. I need your help. For an hour, he laid everything bare. Emma's death, the pharmaceutical acquisition, Damian's history, the poisoned coffee. Olivia listened in silence. When he finished, she asked only one question. What do you need? Access and protection for my daughter. Done. They worked in secret. Late nights, financial forensics, security footage, patterns of sabotage. Damian Cross had been dismantling Olivia's leadership from within. The poisoning was simply his fastest move. In those nights, something unexpected formed. Trust. Olivia saw Nathan's brilliance, his engineering mind, his integrity. Nathan saw past her armor to a woman shaped by expectation and loneliness. They talked about Lily, about choices, about loss. And when the board called an emergency vote, they were ready. The fall of Damian Cross. Damian came armed with projections, accusations, forged evidence. I moved for a temporary transfer of leadership, he said smoothly. Olivia let him speak. Then she stood. Every document you presented is forged. She turned to Nathan. Please. Nathan stepped forward. The board scoffed until he spoke. He presented evidence, financial trails, audio recordings, Emma's research notes. Damien exploded. You're believing a janitor? How did you know it was his wife? Olivia asked softly. Silence. Damien ran. Security stopped him. Detective Chen entered with an arrest warrant. Damien Cross was led away in handcuffs, screaming promises of revenge that echoed hollow in the room. Justice had finally arrived. A different kind of success. Afterward, Olivia offered Nathan anything. He declined. Instead, he asked for a scholarship in Emma's name and a chance to requalify as an engineer. Olivia smiled. Done. The Emma Carter Memorial Scholarship changed lives. So did Olivia. Family. 3 weeks later, Olivia stood awkwardly in Nathan's apartment hallway, groceries in one hand, a board game in the other. Lily invited me, she said softly. Dinner was spaghetti. Lily made the sauce. Olivia laughed for the first time in years. When Lily fell asleep on Olivia's lap, something shifted. This feels like home, Olivia whispered. Months passed. Nathan returned to engineering. Damien's conviction became inevitable. The scholarship fund grew. Love arrived quietly. Not fireworks, but peace. The end that was really a beginning. 6 months later, gossip columns buzzed. Billionaire CEO, former janitor. But in Queens, none of that mattered. What mattered was Lily's laughter, Nathan's graduation, Sunday pancakes, and the truth that love sometimes begins not with romance, but with courage. One voice, one moment, one choice to speak, and everything changed.